Sports Professor Rick Horrow inside the $1.3 trillion business of sports, and you are on the record. A unique podcast, at least I hope so, that talks about the past 50 years, COVID, and the next 50 years of the sports business, where it's been, what the challenges were, and where it's going. Every week, we will theme it around major events and a mega interview, and hopefully you'll be entertained and you might even learn something. Sports Professor Rick Horrow, and you're on the record. Sports Professor Rick Horrow, inside the $1.3 trillion business of sports, and you're on the record. This is an exciting time for the NFL fighting college football for playoff supremacy, and who wins? Everybody. Fans, rights fee holders, players, NIL conglomerates, and everybody else you can imagine. And it's not going to stop soon. Vegas and their Convention and Visitors Bureau is authorizing up to $40 million, $25 and a $15 million contingency as a fund to bid for, quote, game management and event goods and services, marketing, advertising, event permits, team practice sites, facilities, law enforcement, security, and emergency response services. You know what that's for? That's to get the 2027 national championship at Allegiant Stadium. They have WrestleMania, men's basketball Final Four this year, Super Bowl last year. And obviously, certain cities understand the economic impact of having these kind of games, not only now, but on a rotating basis. And certainly, our interview today is no exception. The Orange Bowl Committee, founded years ago and dedicated and committed to putting on major events. And over those years, it has been a very significant opportunity, not just putting on the national championship, doing major community events, $50 million worth of philanthropy, facilities, major tennis events, other ideas all over South Florida. Leslie Pantin, a public relations counsel for some of the nation's foremost brands, 30 years of McDonald's representation, his expertise, business issues, community relations. He also has been vice chair of the Board of Trustees of Florida State. He chaired the Governance Committee, Compensation, Efficiency, Business and Finance Committee, as well as Student Affairs. And the most important issue is the fact that he has been past president of the Orange Bowl Committee in a dynamic time, finishing one of the semifinals, hosting the national championship next year. Very appropriate and timely to begin our On the Record segment, heading into the national championship with Leslie Pantin, the former president of the Orange Bowl Committee. Sports Professor Rick Horrow, inside the sports business. It's a $1.3 trillion business, growing even bigger. 2025, streaming, media rights, all of the controversies involved in that. And we have people who could talk about it in various ways, in all different perspectives. NFL coming up, National Hockey League playoffs, NBA. We have major events in 2025, World Cup, etc. But let's focus, as we should, on the college football playoff. It's the first year of what has been a tremendously successful college football playoff series. We're most of the way home. And one of the things that happens is preserving the existing structure as much as possible, but yet getting into the unknown. We see that the numbers are over $1.4 billion for ESPN, TNT early, and ESPN later. One of the linchpins has been the various committees structures, the Cotton Bowl on Friday of week 3 before the national championship on January 20, and the Capital One Orange Bowl, the first of the semifinals. The Orange Bowl Committee, a 370-member volunteer nonprofit sports organization, one of the first, one of the best, and one of its initial pioneer presidents, Les Pantin, good friend, historical in South Florida. How you doing?
Doing great, Rick. Great to see you.
Yeah, thank you very much. We reconnected, and here we are. And we are at the time of greatness, the Orange Bowl Committee, as part of an overall structure. Semifinal this year, national championship next year. Obviously a big time for the Orange Bowl Committee and a big time for the college football playoffs.
Yes, sir. You know, the Orange Bowl Committee has worked very hard to get to this point. Where, as you say, this year we're hosting the semifinal. And next year we'll be hosting the quarterfinals and the national championship, even though the national championship is like a committee more bigger than the Orange Bowl committee itself. The Orange Bowl has taken the leadership in the host committee for next year national championship here in Miami.
Well, you know, one of the things that I think we ought to focus on from a business show perspective is the role of not just bowls in a community, 50 to $100 million of economic impact, even more, but the roles of these committees that make the bowl games what they are all over the country. The 36 non-playoff bowl games, are there too many bowls? Of course not, because everybody has their own individual roles as well. But the Orange Bowl Committee, you know, you guys started in 1935, and now you're an institution with what I think 400 members and over 1,000 ambassadors. Talk about the structure of it.
Right. Well, we have 300 and some members, probably close to 400, like you said. When at one time it was a Miami only organizations. You had to live in Miami to be a member of the Orange Bowl. The membership is by invitations. The membership number is limited. So according to how many people die or leave Miami, we have openings for new members, and it's a very competitive to get in the Orange Bowl committee. We, as you said, we were only in Miami. Now, as the years have, we are an organization of many members in Palm Beach County, many members in Broward, many members in Miami-Dade, and we had 2 presidents of the Orange Bowl Committee that were from out of the South Florida. So we have stayed with the times and with the growth of the state of Florida.
It's like a country club, although it's not. It's you got to work hard to get in. And I've been around South Florida sports, as you know, for 50 years, and it's just an incredible organization as well. When you think about it, though, Les, you've been a public relations counsel to some of the nation's foremost brands, 30 years from McDonald's and otherwise. It's a brand that sustains and has grown. And it started, I would think, as an adjunct to put on a football game, but now it's a major civic and business organization in South Florida, right?
It started to be an economic engine between when Hialeah race course closed until the beginning of the year, and to have something that would bring people to Miami during that time of the year that the hotels were empty. So that was the purpose of what the Orange Bowl started. And then it has grown that we have many, many, many other events, including in Broward and in Palm Beach counties. And our membership is very, very varied to reflect our communities.
Yeah, and it's grown obviously geographically as well as institutionally, as well as brand wise. But when you look at the LinkedIn data that talks about business organizations and your functional distribution of tasks, you go way beyond just putting on a game. You got operations, community and social services, media communications, marketing. It's similar and representative of the 60 or so sports support organizations all over the country. Just you have a very significant major national bowl that's the linchpin of the organization, right?
But the difference is, you mentioned that it was like getting into a country club.
Okay.
Or when you get into a country club, you go play golf, swimming, tennis, have drinks and food. Here, once you get on, you have to work, during, especially this time of the year, during, Christmas to New Year's, when we get ready to host 2 teams, we have, a lot of events that we have to work very hard at to put them on, and then to host or guest this year from Penn State and Notre Dame.
And the difference, I think, probably is you had before 4 or 5 weeks, maybe more, to remember quietly or conveniently how to get those teams in town, how to give them exciting events. Now, the way the college football playoff is structured, you have a week, you have 10 days. You don't know who it's going to be. You're going to be hospitable, but you don't know who it's going to be. What difference does that make in terms of organization and structure?
How we get ready during the football season is we go and visit most campuses, and get to know the administration, get to know the athletic department, get to know the coaching staffs. So when they get here, we already know them, and we're ready to host them when they get here on Wednesday night. And now it's a little bit shorter. We used to have the teams for over a week. Now we have them for 3 nights because they came from another game, and hopefully they're getting ready to play in the winner gets ready to play in the national championship.
So one more question about the committee, and then we'll go on a couple other things that are important to the listeners, I think. It's not a country club because you're working when you get in. The $50 million committed by the Orange Bowl and its partners to improving the South Florida community over the past 2 decades, that's not just an empty statement. You have a coronation ball, you used to have a parade, you have legacy projects, you have makeovers, you have facilities that you build. Talk about that function and how important that is.
Well, that's something that is not well known, but is an important part of Orange Bowl. We have taken parks in Miami-Dade, in Broward and Palm Beach, public parks. Usually they have a high school football stadium and refurbish them, usually put a new playing surface, renovate the dressing rooms and the area. Some of them have a track around it that we put a new track in. And we have done that so many times that now, last year, we renovated a renovated park. So we were visiting a park in the heart of Miami for the second time in partnership with the city of Miami.
You have a lot of things going, and the Orange Bowl Committee is one of many committees all over the country that the business listeners need to be aware of. The second hat that I wanted to talk to you about is a separate but compatible hat. You were vice chair of the board of trustees of Florida State, the governing body of the institution. It chaired the governance committee, the compensation efficiency, business and finance committee, student affairs, etc. You've got a perspective about Florida State that nobody else really does. And given that, give me your perspective on the state of college football as it exists.
It's changing as we talk. Of course, the NIL, the name, image, and likeness, it's something that now it's relevant in every campus, spending a lot of money, and the transfer portal, something brand new that we still haven't put our arms around, and it's changing every day. So that's a major part. The athletic budgets at universities like Florida State are, in the hundreds of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars, I'm sorry. And we are, right now, we have 2 huge building projects. One is the complete renovation of Doak Campbell Stadium to mirror what fans want now. We're going to have less seats, or they're going to be more comfortable. They're going to be chair backs. They're going to be club seats. They're going to be skyboxes that we already have, loges, or many things like that. The whole seating in the stadium will be ready and new from when Florida State hosts Alabama at the end of August of this year. The only area that the seats will remain the same are the student section, that the students prefer to have bench seating. They can sit on top of another one without no problems, and the visiting, and the underneath the stadium, all the concessions and all the bathrooms will be new for this year on one side, and for the other year in the other season. And the stadium will be adapted to Americans with disability,
Yeah.
is better known as handicap, is, you know, the rails and the handrails and the steps and that kind of. So it's going to be a brand new stadium that we will have in August of this year.
You put on your FSU fan hat, your trustee hat. You got a lot of hats. And if I were to tell you that a quarterback named Darian Mensah, who was a former Tulane signal caller, now goes to Duke, and his commitment is $4 million a year, yet it's double what Cam Ward got to go to the University of Miami. Would you say you're making that up? How do you feel about that?
No, you're not even 8 millions. That quarterback that Florida tried to get was like much more than 8 millions. He went to I don't know where, and he transferred again this year. So that is something that is going to have to be managed better. I hear that sooner than later there's going to be like a NIL cap, like the salary cap in the NFL, and it's going to be probably around $20 million, which is money. And also the schools are hit what is called the house settlement, which is money that is owed to former athletes, that is also going to be a part of $20 million. Only one time that the schools are going to have to pay over the next 10 years, $2 million a year. This thing about the transfer portal, players opting out at the end, that's going to have to be different. There's going to be some sort of an agreement that if you don't play in the ball games, or you don't play the whole season, you're going to take a hit, financial hit.
Is the leverage that will allow the athletic directors to do that the allocation of money under house, meaning your FSU athletic director can basically say, you guys are contract employees for certain purposes, obviously students as well. And in order to get the NIL money / scholarship money, you can't opt out. You got to stay a year or two. Something that restores some sanity to college football. How's it going to happen?
That's kind of happened, because this is crazy what's happening now, that you can count on a player to play the whole season, and you're paying, as you mentioned before, good money. So this is there's going to be some rules to this, and some as they call it, fenders, to keep this sane and not a craziness that it is now.
Yeah, but okay. So as a former trustee and FSU maniac, just a devil's advocate question. The one way to change from 2-10 or whatever you were this year, I think, I don't want to bring it up again, I know it's not great, to turn it around and get competitive again, is to hit a home run in the transfer portal. And it does give you an opportunity to level the playing field and restore greatness, doesn't it?
Yeah, but here, what happened at FSU, my own opinion and the opinion of many, what made us great the year before, when we won 13 games and went undefeated in the regular season, and the year before that we won 10 games, that management of the transfer portal was great back then, and it was awful this year. That, with the staff that we had for many years together, was an asset. Then it became a liability overnight. those two things have been addressed by FSU this year, as we look forward to getting back to winning big in 2025.
Your mouth to God's ears. Les Pantini has early and inside information that tells you the transfer portal is going to be fixed, and don't bet against the Seminoles in 2025.
Yeah.
Sports Professor Rick Horrow, Les, thank you very, very much for this, both the Orange Bowl Committee perspective, FSU, and the future of college football.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you for having me.
All told, everything positive, business of college football. Speak with you next week. Les Pantin certainly has a perspective that transcends the Orange Bowl Committee, certainly Florida State, obviously brand management, and a whole host of other opportunities he brings to bear. Let's remember all of these committees around the country, not just the ones in the sites, 10, 11 sites respectively, that put on the playoff games, but all of the other 36 or so sites that put on other bowl games have solid foundations of support, business and civic-wise, from their respective bowl committees. Good for them. Let's look at the top 5 issues of the last week or so, 1 through 5. Number 1, well, certainly the big deal is the wildfires devastating in Southern California, and the NFL quick to move. They take the LA Rams home game, move it to Glendale. First time since 1936 that a postseason NFL game relocated from Boston to New York was then because of anemic ticket sales. This is far more serious. The Cardinals and Rams season ticket holders get this deal, general public as well, a 35,000 priority window for the Rams. The Rams may be losing $1 to $2 million of gate receipts. It's hardly something that's noticeable for the $600 to $800 million annual revenue from the Rams, but certainly important for their fans, their sponsors, their players. The Cardinals haven't hosted a home game since 2015. Maybe they can get some excitement here. The winners, well, State Farm, the naming recognition, though they are not renewing policies for 30,000 properties across the state of California, including 1,600 homes in the Pacific Palisades neighborhood. So their publicity may be questioned. And certainly a winner is the player group themselves. They go from paying 12.3% duty day California tax to about 2.5% tax rate because the game's played in Arizona. There are a lot of business issues surrounding that game, and that's number 1. Number 2, Carson Beck. He gets $10 million with his NIL process as the Miami starting quarterback. Miami goes from Cam Ward going to the New York Heisman stage to Carson Beck, a former national champion quarterback. Beck has deals with Beats by Dre, Powerade, Chipotle, Airstar Charter, and his agents at ESM say he's accumulated over $10 million, not to mention 127,000 Instagram followers, and his girlfriend, social influencer, athlete, basketball star, Hannah Cavender. Those two make a powerful combination as Miami seeks to maintain and enhance its relevance beginning next year, again, post-Cam Ward. As number 2. Number 3, could the $3.6 million that's been refused to be paid cost Salt Lake its 2034 Olympic bid? Well, the U.S. government decided not to pay the 2024 annual payment because of issues that require reform, say U.S. Congress. The end of the day, a add-on to the Salt Lake agreement for the Olympics said that the agency's, quote, supreme authority should not be questioned, and a violation could result in the IOC rescinding the 2034 games at any time. The actual payment is voluntary. The issue could cause some relatively small issues as far as restructuring as far as board participation. But the biggest issue, according to the U.S. Anti-Doping Agency's response, says it would be illegal for WADA to threaten the bid to punish a sovereign nation like the U.S. for non-payment of voluntary dues, and non-payment can't impact future awarding of games. the Chinese scandal, the Russian scandal, and now this. It's in the hands of the lawyers. We'll have to see. That's number 3. Number 4, Sixers and Flyers going to play in a new arena in Philly, but where? The current Sixers lease at Wells Fargo Center runs until 2031. The NBA team and the Flyers were looking at a new deal, a 50-50 partnership between the Sixers, owned by Josh Harris and David Blitzer, and the Flyers are looking at a new arena, not in the Market East Center of Center City, but also, even more importantly, the idea of putting it next to the Eagles, Flyers existing arena down on Broad Street where people are used to going. Amazon and ESPN, along with NBC Peacock, the Comcast deal, includes $77 billion rights fee with the NBA that they are a part of. And the WNBA hired Allen & Company to start the new WNBA expansion process, and Philadelphia would be in it if this deal is done. A lot of moving parts. That's number 4. And number 5, what do you do if you're the NBA and you have doldrums rating-wise before Christmas or before the playoffs? You have a game that includes 2 teams on pace to win 70 games. You have a game with no double-digit lead advantages and 30 lead changes, and 2 relatively small market teams that are playing out of this world. It's the Thunder and the Cavaliers, and what you get is nearly 2 million viewers on ESPN, about 8% more than the 1.7 million with the NBA 5 games Christmas Day. The overall slate down about 4% during last year, but they would be wise to remember that the key to having viewership in the regular season, tell your players to play harder. That's your 5 from last week. Let's look at the 5 to watch. 5. Number 1, NBC, Fox, Warner Brothers, and Discovery opt to discontinue what was called Venue Sports. The collective decision by the 3 companies not to move forward is discussed in a press release, quote, after careful consideration, we've collectively agreed to discontinue the joint venture and not launch the streaming service. In an ever-changing marketplace, we determined that it was best to meet the evolving demands of sports fans by focusing on existing products and distribution channels. You know what it means? It doesn't mean they don't like streaming. It means they like streaming so much, they're going to go at it their own way and see if they can beat the heck out of each other, I think is the answer. But certainly it is something worth watching. That's number 1. Number 2, the WWE. 5 million fans as the streaming giant continues to make its mark on the live sports space. The inaugural event on Netflix took place on January 6th and drew about 5 million. 223 million social viewers across platforms on the day of Raw premiere. More social views than anything in 2024. They paid about $5 billion for the rights to Raw. 31 years old, it's one of the oldest ongoing regular programs. And the Jake Paul, Mike Tyson, about 60 million households. The NFL Christmas Day, about 65 million. They're certainly in the right place. That's number 2. Number 3, interesting. The Pro Darts Corporation enjoyed 3.1 million viewers on Sky Sports, the highest ever. 17-year-old Luke Littler, remember his name, the first title. Average audience of 3.1 million. The whole tournament up 29% this last year, including significant increase in the 18 to 49 demographic. Listen, we may not appreciate darts in the U.S., but with streaming, we're going to watch it. It's number 8 or number 3. Number 4, global sports sunglasses market. Get this, remarkable growth. 6.3 billion in 2024. Anticipated CAGR, that's the annual growth rate, of 5%, 10.3 billion by 2034. Hiking, surfing, skiing, golf heightened the demand for specialized eyewear, protecting harsh elements while maintaining clarity and comfort. And certainly, it's a very important issue, not only in the U.S., but the South Korean market expected to grow at 7%. K-pop and the country's strong sports culture. The growth rate in Japan, 6.6%. Japan's advanced technology, particularly in the sports eyewear manufacturing, propelling market growth, like baseball and golf. UK, the demand for cycling and cricket-related sunglasses, expected growth rate 6%. And China's significant role as a manufacturer and consumer for sports eyewear, its position as a major user. If you want to invest, that's where you go. And then finally, number 5, the TGL, Tomorrow Golf League, the major commitment after week 1, Tiger Woods after week 10, the official performance and analytics provider, Rory McIlroy, Tiger Woods, Mike McCarley. It got underway last week, and it's continuing to move forward, presented by SoFi, using technology in an unprecedented scale, generating a ton of data, providing opportunities to help share the insights on how players are performing in the competition. KPMG just came on as a partner. CapTech has been a partner since the inception. SoFi, founding partner, obviously, but Business Solver, Best Buy, Full Swing, One Flight, Samsung, Sinlong, FanDuel, all of them appreciate the synergy with data, simulation, and golf. That's our show for this week. We'd like to thank Les Pantin to give us some unprecedented perspective as we enter the final legs of the college football playoff this year. I'd like to Calle Ocho for helping us to put together another On the Record show. Thank you for listening and watching and joining us inside the $1.3 trillion business of sports as we head toward the College Football National Championship and the Super Bowl. Speak with you next week.